Alright, hello everyone and welcome. This is Ask the King. It's actually episode 57. Yeah, what a long ass running series, right? It's also the very first episode of Ask the King for the new year 2016. It's right now the very end of the month, the 28th of January actually. And I've not had a chance to do this show in 2 months, so I'm excited to be coming back strong. If you've noticed, recently there's been some changes to my content on my vlogging channel here on YouTube. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But for those of you who maybe are newcomers who have just come by recently to check out all the new stuff, welcome to Ask the King. This is my monthly show, or at least I try to do it monthly. In this case, it was a 2-month wait, where I answer your questions, whether you are submitting them on the kingofhate.com forums, whether you're a patron who pledged $20 or more monthly, which you can see the link right here. If you do that, you get your question answered for sure on the show. And in fact, we've got a good 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe 4 or 5 people who are going to get their questions answered because of that. In addition, I also take Twitter and Facebook questions. You can see my Twitter right here. And I asked earlier today when I was actually preparing the questions for those, and Facebook, which incidentally is facebook.com/they call me DSP. So all those different methods by which you can submit questions. And I go through those questions. I try to pick the best ones to answer here on the show and give you a nice, informed, entertaining answer. Okay? A few things, because we are going to get right into the questions. But before we do, a few things to cover that are different. Number one, you may have noticed this month there was no podcast. That's because the Hate Live podcast, for all intents and purposes, is pretty much defunct. And what I mean by that is that because I have increased the amount of vlogging that I do, and I am now doing individual edited videos for topics, I'm not going to be doing one large unedited podcast anymore. What I used to do is save up all my opinions on stuff going on in pop culture and gaming, and then I would just do one big video about it in a podcast. Instead of that, I'm going to split it up and do shorter, more edited, more highlighted videos for you, and they're going to be reactionary to stuff going on. So just so you know, this month in particular, I did one in regards to the announcement of the Oculus Rift going up for pre-order and the pricing of the Oculus Rift. I gave you my opinions on that. I also talked about the Suicide Squad trailer as well as the new Wonder Woman footage that had been released. Just recently this week, I did a Royal Rumble 2016 reactions video after watching that WWE pay-per-view. And yesterday, right here on the King of Hate Vlogs, I also released my thoughts on Star Wars The Force Awakens, which I finally had the opportunity to see after a month and a half of the damn thing being out in theaters. I know it sucked that I didn't have a chance to see it earlier, but it is what it is. So that's the kind of style of video you're going to see here on the King of Hate Vlogs, in addition to this show, Ask the King. But you're also going to see the continuation of shows like DSP Tries It, the Week in Preview. So there's going to be a nice wide variety of content here on the vlogging channel. For the first time, I actually feel like I'm going to be dedicating the amount of time I should have to begin with to vlogging. And I'm curious to see how it goes. I would definitely like to say thank you to all of you who have embraced this new style, because the 4 videos I put out this month so far, the performance is great. People are watching, they're commenting, they're spreading the word, and I like that. That means that you care about what I have to say, and you want me to keep sharing my thoughts. So I will, coming up with new gaming news or something with pop culture or whatever. Look for me to be covering various different things. For example, if there's a new television show I'm watching, or if something happens with gaming, you're going to see me covering all of that, all right? So I know that's a change, and that means no more podcast. What that means is that patrons who pledge $10 or more to my Patreon monthly, normally I would read out a thank you shout out on my podcast. It's now going to be here in Ask the King. So what we're actually going to do is do patron questions and then immediately do those thank yous and then push forward into more questions, okay? One more thing that I want to mention before we start with the questions. This is something completely different and new that I'm doing in the year of 2016. I've become an Amazon Associate Partner. What that means is that I am part of the Amazon Associates program, and if you buy stuff on Amazon.com, okay, and normally you order, it could be anything, and that stuff for the house, games, anything that you might order, digital stuff, digital movies, music, anything you get off of Amazon.com. I'm now going to be putting a referral link in the description of my videos, including this video is the first one on the King of Hate Vlogs that I'm doing this. If you click on that link and then you'll open your browser to Amazon and then you can do your shopping, I get a referral credit for that. So basically, it's a way for me to make a few extra bucks. It's going to definitely help this year with all the changes that I made to my channels. The fact that, I just had that contract renegotiation with Machinima and I really need your help. This is one way to help actively rather than, having to worry about, oh no, Patreon, because a lot of people have said, oh, I'd like to do Patreon, but I can't afford it. But hey, I order stuff from Amazon, so I'll just use this referral link, and it'll give Phil a little bit of help. So thank you to those of you who already have, because already there's been like over 40 items using my referral link in the past like 2 weeks that it's existed, and now I'm going to start putting it actively in all of my videos. So just look at the description. If you use it, it helps me a lot. Okay, so enough about that preface stuff. Now we're actually going to get to the meat of the questions. As you know, typically this show runs about 2 hours long, sometimes longer. I try to separate it into about 30-minute parts. So you're going to see multiple parts, probably 3 parts, if not more. We'll see how long it takes to answer some of these questions. All right. So the first Ask the King of the new year. I'm very happy to be answering your questions. Keep in mind, if you didn't get your question submitted in time for this episode, you can always submit it for next episode on my kingofhate.com forums. You can head over there, and there already is a thread up for the next show, so post your questions up for there. And also keep in mind, if you're not interested in a particular question, look at the description of the video. I have timestamps here where you can jump around the videos, and that way you don't have to wait for the question you're not interested in. You can just jump right to the one that you want to hear the answer to. Okay? All right, so let's begin with the patron questions. These are patrons for the months of November and December who pledged the $20 or more and got their questions submitted for sure to be answered on the show. So the first question. Hello, Phil. Here is my question. When you first started to stream Nintendo 3DS playthroughs, I believe I remember you saying that you had played Fire Emblem Awakening before. I don't think that you mentioned that you beat it, but getting to the point, Fire Emblem Fates is going to come out on the 19th of February, and I was wondering if you're going to give it a shot. It could be a new revival for your Nintendo 3DS playthroughs. My second question, what is your opinion on Final Fantasy VII being remade in episodic releases, apparently? And that's from Fire Emblem Fan. All right, so 2 questions. Let's tackle them. First of all, yes, I did play Fire Emblem Awakening on the Nintendo 3DS. That was actually one of the last games I played on the Nintendo 3DS. And that was quite a while ago. That was a couple of years ago before I moved out of Connecticut. Since I've moved, I find that I literally have no time really to sit down and play mobile gaming on like the Nintendo 3DS. What I have done, every once in a while I'll play a quick mobile game on my phone or something like that. There's been a few ones that have been related to WWE over the past couple of years. Like there was one card game that I quit earlier this year because there was another game that came out that was similar. It was like a combat game. It was called Immortals. It was similar to the app that they had out for Injustice a couple years ago. So I kind of get caught up in that stuff when I have free time, but I have not dedicated myself to actually play, say, a real mainstream portable game in a long time. So you ask if I'm going to be checking out Fire Emblem Fates. I'm going to be honest with you. There's no way possible that I could play Fire Emblem Fates because it comes out on February 19th. And just to give everyone some perspective, the month of February is already insanely packed with releases. The first week, we've got the first Black Ops 3 DLC, which I definitely want to check out, and I'm going to be continuing on with my continuing playthroughs, stuff like Undertale and Yakuza 5. The second week, we've got the last Naruto game in the mainstream storyline of Naruto games, and people have been waiting for me to play this for 3 years, because I played the last one in 2013. People really enjoyed my playing of that playthrough, and I'm going to be playing this new one. In addition to that, there's also Unravel and Firewatch, both of which I want to play, but I don't know if I'm going to even have time, simply because all those games come out on the same day. The week after that, on February 16th, is Street Fighter V. And everyone knows my history with Street Fighter. I used to be a competitive Street Fighter player. I covered the living shit out of Street Fighter 4, and I'm planning on doing the same for Street Fighter 5. So this is basically the worst possible timing for a lengthy JRPG-style game to be released, let alone a game that's on the Nintendo 3DS and probably would have even a lesser viewer base than me doing a more mainstream one, like, say, Persona 5 or something like that. So, unfortunately, this game is just kind of going right under my radar. There's too much going on in the month of February, and by the way, you would say, well, why don't you save it for later? Well, let's see, March has like 5 or 6 games. April has like 5 or 6 huge high-profile games, so you're talking saving this game to like maybe the downtime of the summer, which, by the way, that's when Persona 5 is supposed to come out. Oh yeah, I still have Disgaea 5, which I was playing last year and haven't played in like 3 months, and I don't know if I'm ever even going to get back to that. So you see the conundrum I'm in. I'm in a JRPG conundrum, where there's so many JRPGs that came out at the same time last year. I didn't even get through those, and now there's so many new games coming out. I don't know if it's going to fit. I mean, there's definitely JRPGs on my radar. I definitely want to play Persona 5. That's why I keep mentioning it. But outside of that, I don't know if I even want to make any promises about playing JRPGs anytime soon because there's so much else coming out that I'm interested in. Okay? Now, the second half of his question. What's your opinion on Final Fantasy VII being remade into an episodic release? If you've been watching my stuff for a while, you'll definitely know my opinion on episodic releases. They could be really good or really bad. The reason I think they could be really good is because on the fly, game developers can listen directly to feedback from the people who are playing their game, and they can either improve the game or fix the game. If it's a game that has an interesting narrative, they could change the narrative and write it on the fly rather than, oh no, we wrote this game and it already was released fully, so people didn't like this twist in the plot, you know what I mean? There's no way that we can fix it or anything like that. Things I don't like about episodic releases is that they never have release dates. So, okay, I buy Final Fantasy VII, I pay my full $60 price tag for it, but I have no idea when the episodes are coming out. They just give you a general time frame, which ends up changing and being delayed. In regards to Telltale Games, who is the game developer who's most infamous for making these episodic games, episodes will just come out willy-nilly out of friggin' nowhere. No one knows when they're coming out or what to expect, and they're live. And you're like, well, I didn't know it was coming out, now I have no time to play it, and it gets frustrating. In this case, I think the reason they're going to be doing Final Fantasy VII as an episodic release is because, number one, they want to gauge interest. They're maybe not fully confident in making it a full retail release because they don't know how many they'd sell. So they maybe want to do a first part and see how much it sells at first. In addition to that, maybe they want to get it to the market as quickly as possible. Like, they know that there are hardcore fanboys from the 90s chomping at the bit to play Final Fantasy VII Remade, and rather than wait 2-3 years for the game to be ready, wait 1 year and release the first episode and get them all excited and hooked for the next episode. You know what I mean? So ultimately, I don't know. Ultimately, I don't have like a black or white opinion on it. I think it could work. We haven't seen Square Enix in particular do a RPG style game like this episodically. The only one that they published was Life is Strange, but they didn't have anything to really do with the game development of that one. So, I don't know. I'll reserve myself until we know more about the game and how it's going to work. I'm going to reserve my opinion. I don't want to jump the gun and say, oh, it's great or it's bad, and then, you know, I end up putting my foot in my mouth like sometimes I do, okay? Next question. This one is from, excuse me, because this is an impronounceable name on the forums, JXRVCX Chai. Impossible to pronounce. But, all right, here we go. She asks, hey, Phil, will you be continuing games which you didn't complete? I believe a lot of people are waiting for you to finish certain games like Tales of Xilia 2. I mean, here's the bottom line. This is unfortunately what ends up happening in a lot of cases with games where they're long, drawn-out games. Especially, it always seems to happen with these Japanese-centric games. Games like JRPGs or Japanese culture-centric, okay? They're so freaking long that it's incredibly hard to retain viewership. There's interest initially when I start playing these games, but because they're so long and drawn out, it's impossible to keep viewership. I mean, even a game like Fallout 4, which is not Japanese-centric, just take a look at that playthrough. The first, like, 50 parts had tremendous viewership, and even after that, they started falling down to the end. With the end of the game, I had almost a couple thousand people maybe watching. What a disparity. Over 80,000 people saw part 1 of Fallout 4, and the final parts have, like, 1,000 to 2,000 views each. You see what I mean? The longer the game, the more drawn out, the harder it is to retain viewership, and that's why... Noise going on outside. That's why, quite honestly, I think it's a plane flying by. Quite honestly, that's why you don't see lots of mainstream YouTubers doing these long, drawn-out JRPG playthroughs. It's that simple, okay? In the case of Tales of Xilia 2, I had played Tales of Xilia 1 the summer before. It had come out with great release timing so that I was able to play the entire game during the summer and finish it before the hardcore gaming season had begun, and I actually really enjoyed the game. Then I played Tales of Xilia 2, and I'll be honest, I basically liked it half as much as the first game, because it reused almost all the environments, all the characters, all the game mechanics. It forced you to repetitively grind to the point where the playthrough wasn't really very interesting because you had to have hours and hours of repetitive, boring shit I had to do in order to progress with the story. And the bottom line is the timing was also bad. They released it, I believe, in August that year. Not this past year, but I believe it was 2014. And there was no way for me to beat the game in time before the hardcore gaming season started. So unfortunately, I got caught up in the new stuff, and that was it. And people were like, well, why didn't you ever go back to it? Because everything else was coming out. New stuff constantly. People want to see me cover the new stuff. I want to play the new stuff. With Tales of Xilia 2, it was kind of a been there, done that kind of attitude, where I played the game, I wasn't super impressed, all right? And at that point, I was like, well, even though I dedicated a ton of time to playing it, I have other stuff to do, and I'd rather do the other stuff. And my viewership is telling me to do other stuff. And that's what happened with a few games. Like, for example, I just mentioned Disgaea 5. Not that I don't like Disgaea 5. I actually do like it. But I've hit the point in the game where I think I'm going to have to grind off camera in order to level up my characters enough to progress in the story. And I just really don't have the time. I don't have the time to sit here anymore and play what I used to do when I lived in Connecticut and I was single at night. when I was done with my work and I was supervising uploads, I would sit there with my console on here, and then I would have videos or something else playing on my PC, and I'd be grinding endlessly on the console while having like a drink and relaxing while I was doing that. It doesn't exist anymore. Now I live here, in Washington, much different situation. I live with my girlfriend. I have way less free time, chores and stuff to do, and the free time that I do have, I'll be quite honest, I'd rather spend with her watching television and doing other stuff rather than sitting there grinding endlessly in an RPG. So unfortunately, I hate to say it, but these kind of games that are lending themselves to really super long extended playthroughs that really don't have a lot going on and it's a lot of repetitive combat, I don't know how actively I'm going to be able to cover them anymore. And you see, you could compare that to a series like Persona 4, where, yeah, Persona 4 had a lot of combat, but it wasn't grinding. It was actually just progressing through the dungeons with no real grinding required. The grinding that I had to do was the side missions, which actually had story to them and were interesting. So there's your comparison. RPG games that are repetitive as hell and take a ton of grinding and time consumption to finish versus a game like Persona, where I think they do it right. It's more about the narrative and stuff, and it actually can get people interested in watching a long playthrough of it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly not saying that these JRPGs that are coming out are out of the question. Absolutely not. And I'm sure they're going to be very high-profile ones. We already mentioned Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yeah, I'm definitely doing that. And in fact, there's a question coming up for another one that I may possibly be covering as well. But the bottom line is, especially with my new formula, which is about a 3 to 4 hour gameplay stream every day, and then at night me working either on a vlog or an edited video, I don't have this kind of time anymore where I'm going to be sitting and endlessly grinding in these games. It was an era that I did it for a couple years, and even though, yeah, I enjoyed doing it, I don't think it's really going to be viable at this point. And I apologize to those who were like, well, I love seeing Phil play JRPGs and spending, a month playing one game and, for a 200 to 300 part playthrough. How can I do it viably? How can I do it and have a business that operates? You know what I mean? That's why you don't see YouTubers usually do it. The people who are doing it on YouTube, they're not doing it as a business. And that's real talk, And I know some people are going to be upset about that, but I'm being honest with you. I don't want to sugarcoat shit, It's certainly not out of the question that I would never play JRPGs again. And like I said, Persona 5, definitely playing that when it releases. But it's certainly out of the question that I'm going to be going back to some of these defunct playthroughs. There's zero chance I'm going back to Tales of Xilia 2 because I traded that game in a year ago. So there's no way I'm doing that one. Disgaea 5, even though I'd like to say I'd like to do it and continue it, I don't know how viable it's going to be. We've got 3 straight months of insane amounts of releases, and I know I'm going to be bunkered down here playing them, so I don't know. All right? Okay, next question. Phil, you've been streaming on your website for over 2 years now, and you have IRC as a client built in for your stream chat. Since being able to implement this, do you feel that you're finally starting to come together in regards to YouTube? Meaning like, having a daily work regimen. I also mean the live capturing and new things that you could do with editing now. And that question is from Just a Human. It's funny because when I started Direct Capture, I really didn't know what the hell I was doing. This was back in early 2013. So almost 3 years ago now. Yeah, it's almost a 3-year anniversary that I adopted Direct Capture. And I was flubbing along, and at first when I tried doing it, the quality was bad. I was trying to live stream, and I was having tons of issues. Back then, I was live streaming on Twitch TV, right? And then we all know what happened over there, the course of a year to 2 years. I was on Twitch, and I was liking what I was doing, but then Twitch didn't want me to do the quality of videos that I wanted to do. They wanted me to downgrade, and I wasn't too happy with that, and especially with a lot of the business practices that they had instituted on their website, which I did not fucking agree with. So I said, you know what? YouTube has streaming now. I'm just going to try it over there, and I did, and I'll be honest, I love streaming on YouTube. Streaming on YouTube, I could do it the quality I want. Technically, I don't have too many technical difficulties. I can certainly tell you this. When there's a big-ass fucking tournament for another game, the entire website doesn't chug along and suck like Twitch does because it's YouTube. They're huge. You know what I mean? They have the server capacity to handle stuff. Of course, I don't get anywhere near as much viewership as I did on Twitch because Twitch is the hyped mainstream place to stream. I don't care. I like having a more dedicated viewer base of people who are there to watch me rather than to just watch the game in general, right? And that's really what it was on Twitch. People would jump on my stream and say, wow, the guy's playing the new hyped game. And then they would be like, well, I don't understand. This guy's not interacting with the stream chat. This guy's not asking for subs. This guy's not doing this and that. All these things that everyone does on Twitch typically. I don't understand it. I must demand that this guy conform to what everyone else does on Twitch. And they didn't get it. And so really when I streamed on Twitch, I didn't get any benefit out of it. I didn't get any kind of growth. I didn't get any new viewers. It was just kind of people coming in and out every day willy-nilly. and it didn't really benefit me. At least on YouTube now, I have my streams and my raw gameplay all in one spot. That's good. The go-to place for raw gameplay is DSP Gaming. The go-to place for vlogging is right here on the King of 8 Vlogs. The go-to place for edited content is my new channel, KO Gaming. I like that. It's a lot better than just willy-nilly who's coming in to watch my shit. I don't even know who the fuck this guy is, and I'll watch him for an hour or so, and then I'll get the fuck out and never talk to him again or know anything about him again. I don't need that. And like I said, I'm not the kind of person who is sitting there and doing those practices that make people financially viable on Twitch, so it didn't benefit me to be there anyway. So, the few weeks now, about 2 weeks, I've been doing this new formula for 2016. The 3-channel formula. I like it. I really do like the new 3-channel formula. And I really feel that as long as I stick with it, and I stay dedicated to it, it's going to be successful. But that's the thing. It's change. I'm going to be playing less games overall. I'm going to be putting out more of different kinds of content overall. And people need to get used to that. And right now, a lot of people have been questioning me about the new channel, KO Gaming, saying, Phil, the channel's been live for 2 weeks and you don't even have 5,000 subscribers yet. Aren't you afraid? And I'm like, why would I be afraid? You just said it. The channel's only been live for 2 weeks. There's 4 videos there, none of which have anything to do with new games. You're talking about a review of a game that was already 2 months old, an HD re-release of a game from like the early 2000s, and a game that's been out for 6+ months. Once I start covering new games, when I start covering new releases and I'm doing first impressions of new releases and I'm doing montages from these new releases and I'm reviewing these games over there, then I'm expecting people to get excited about the new stuff. Right now, it just started. I'm glad that I had this month where it was kind of slow to launch this new 3-channel model and start to get people used to it. I really do feel that there'll be a lot of organic growth once new games start coming out, which is very shortly. Like I just mentioned, another week to 2 weeks, you're going to see new games every week coming out, and I'm going to be covering them, and, you know, raw gameplay and the edited stuff. It's going to be fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. So at this point, I really am happy at this point with how things are going. I just need, you know, support from people to stay dedicated that you're going to be watching the new stuff, spread the word about the new channels, and of course you got Patreon. It's not even Patreon. I'm not going to go into depth about it, but that's it. I need your support to support this new 3-channel model. Okay? All right. This next question is from Sammy Samosa, and he says, we know what your favorite video games are, but what are some of your favorite board games? Are you a checkers guy or more of a chess player? I was more of a chess player. I used to play chess from a very young age. I learned the game, and I used to play chess a lot all throughout like high school. I liked chess. And when I was a kid, my favorite board games were not the traditional stuff. You know, Candyland and Chutes and Ladders. No, I was more of a Monopoly, The Game of Life, or Clue. I really liked Clue. Those kind of mystery-style games or games where almost had ties to real-life stuff, those were the games that I liked. The games that made you think and you really had to plan out and do complicated stuff, those were the games that I liked. And, you know, I know a lot of people like more simple stuff. No, I was always the more complex kind of board game. Some games I never played, which you may be surprised. Yahtzee. Never played. I don't even know the rules of Yahtzee. No clue. So, that's one I've never done. What's another one? Oh, God. What were those weird games when you were a kid? There was one with bugs, like Bud Bugs or something. Some weird one with bugs. Never played that. Everyone who I knew had played it, I never even heard of it or played it. Like I said, I like made the jump from like checkers and Chutes and Ladders, you know, simple Candyland. Oh my God, Candyland when I was really young. Immediately to like the adult-oriented board games. I skipped all the interim stuff in the middle. Although there was a few fun things. Hungry Hippos. That game was always fun, even though it broke after, you know, a couple weeks of smashing on it. The thing doesn't work as well. And, oh God, there was one, Operation. The game where you get buzzed. Oh man, that was always fun. That was a good game, even though it was annoying as shit. Oh man. There's gotta be at least one more. It's not coming to mind right now. The bottom line is I love board games. I actually do. I love playing board games, but I haven't played them in years. Like, I never really... Whenever I would get together with my friends, you know, when I was in high school or the early, say, 2000s and stuff, when I was actively going out, we'd be playing video games like Street Fighter. That's what everyone was into. Street Fighter. There was actually one group of friends that I had that we would actually drink and play Risk. Now, Risk is a whole other fucking animal. I don't even know if you can call that a board game. That's more of a fucking event where you need like 25 hours to play it. If you have people who are really adamant about winning, I mean, oh my God, that game could be absolutely out of control. But yeah, I love board games. I'm serious about this too. I would love to go to a convention where people play board games. I'm serious. Like, imagine if they had a board game convention. You could go, there's a Monopoly tournament, right? You can enter the tournament, you're playing games of Monopoly and stuff. You know, I love that shit. Like, I love it. And I would love to do, like, competitive games of that stuff. But that's not, it's like video games surpassed all that stuff. And now it's like board games are for kids. All right, anyway, I've talked enough about board games. The next question. Hey, Phil, I'm not sure if you answered this or a similar question before, but if that's the case, I apologize. It's no secret that you made your old Nintendo 3DS playthroughs on your old channel, or on your channel private, and we all know why you did that, okay? What I'm wondering is, what do you think of the idea of moving those 3DS playthroughs to one of your archive channels that have been dormant for several years? These channels, from what I understand, are not partnered, and being archive channels, the risk is minimal or even non-existent. It's not like you're making money off of those anyway, so I figure why not allow your fans to watch those 3DS playthroughs if they choose? All right, in a nutshell, because I don't want to go through the whole situation again. I had to make every game that I ever played on the Nintendo 3DS private on YouTube because of false copyright strikes. Basically, YouTube's copyright system is a piece of garbage. It really is. I'm not exaggerating, and that's not me venting. It is a piece of garbage. It's run by robots. So how stupid this is. When I was playing a Nintendo 3DS game, people would make me nice like templates like this for Ask the King, right? So maybe over here, let's say I was playing Zelda. Oh, there'd be a picture of Link up in this corner. What people were able to do was submit that picture of Link from the original artwork from Nintendo and say, well, this was used without copyright permission, right? And without any kind of actually addressing Nintendo, without any kind of actual check and balance system, and someone on YouTube looking and saying, yeah, but that's just a template for them to do a playthrough. This is not stealing the work and reselling it or whatever. They would hit me with a copyright strike. Yeah, that's how bad YouTube's system is. It's a piece of shit. And it's a joke that that would happen, but that happened to me multiple strikes against my YouTube channels. So at that point, I had to take anything that had any artwork whatsoever and make it private, including playthroughs, pre-streams, anything had to be made private. Hundreds and hundreds of videos. It cost me millions of views, and it actually cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm not going to get into how, but it screwed me over. All right? So I can't do it. I can't have those playthroughs live. Now, King Caboose 2003 says, well, why can't you put them on your other channels? What he's talking about is my original Dark Side Phil channel, excuse me. This was the channel that I used from 2008 to 2010 for YouTube stuff until I moved to my newer channel, DSP Gaming. Or I'm sure I could use some of the, I have a channel that I was just doing a Final Fantasy 13 playthrough of on it when the game was newly released, because I didn't know if I was going to get copyright issues on that channel or not. There's a Red Dead DSP channel where I was doing Rockstar games in case I got copyright issues on those videos. The bottom line is this. It doesn't matter where I upload it. YouTube system still sucks. So let's say, for example, okay, let's upload The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask from 2015. It was early 2015 when I played that game, and I really enjoyed it, right? It was the 3DS remake. I uploaded to Dark Side Phil. Oh, copyright strikes. Oh, Dark Side Phil's gone. So now we lose all those classic playthroughs. Heavy Rain, Mass Effect, all those classic playthroughs that I did on that channel, gone for good because of bullshit. So that's why. No, I'm not going to chance it. And it's certainly not worth the work and effort for me to set up another new YouTube channel to upload them to. At this point, sorry, there's two parties to blame. The malicious shits that did that to me and are still trying to do that to me, and YouTube's insanely broken copyright system, which they absolutely have refused to fix. I talked to them directly about it, and they basically said, tough shit. That's our system, and it's only there to protect us from copyrights, not you, the user. We don't care about you. We care about us getting sued, and we don't want to get sued, so that's why the system is in place. If you don't like it, you don't have to use YouTube. That was the response I got, so I'm boned. I can't upload those 3DS playthroughs again, and they're gone until there's some kind of a resolution. Right now, there is none. Okay. The final question from a patron this month. Again, if you want to get your question answered on next month's episode of Ask the King, right here, in the corner there, patreon.com/DarkSidePhil. This one's from Low Tier Lord, and he asks the following. Hey Phil, I was wondering if after the release of Street Fighter V, would you go back to local tournaments around the area? In fact, the Northwest Majors are actually going to be coming up pretty quickly, and I'm actually going to be going to that. I guess my question is, once Street Fighter V releases, if you like it enough, will you start going to tournaments again? Let me put it this way. I am not going to jump the gun. And what I mean by that is when Street Fighter 4 was coming out, I really liked the game. And I said to everyone, I'm going to be going to tournaments and I'm going to be covering it. And I really did like the vanilla version of Street Fighter 4, even though I thought it was very unbalanced. I went to tournaments and I covered it, right? Then, subsequently, when the later versions of Street Fighter 4 were coming out, I was getting annoyed because they kept changing the fucking game. And unlike the people who were like hyper dedicated to playing Street Fighter 4, I was playing it more casually, even though I would play it a lot. It was a lot less than people who were in the competitive scene, and I was falling out of touch with the things that were the changes in the different versions of the game. And this was when my YouTube channels were exploding and becoming popular, so I wanted to dedicate more time to YouTube than just playing Street Fighter, Street Fighter, Street Fighter. And so I kind of fell off. And then over the years, I would still cover new fighting games, but I wouldn't get competitive with them, okay? If Street Fighter 5 ends up being a game that I start playing it and I'm really enjoying it, and I'm like, man, this game is great, and I'm playing it online, I'm having tons of fun, I would consider looking for tournaments in this area. I live right here in Seattle. I don't live in the heart of Seattle. Probably to get to the more urban part of Seattle where they'd have these tournaments, I'd probably have to drive 45 minutes to an hour. I would consider it. But here's the thing, and here's the factor that everyone has to kind of consider, okay? When I do gaming, I do it for their enjoyment, but I also do it for business. It's a dual-sided now, because this is my job, this is my life, right? If I go to a tournament, Street Fighter tournament, all right? Chances are I'm not going to be able to record every match. I'm not going to be able to upload that footage anymore. I mean, I used to do that, and then more and more as I was doing it, I was told you can't film here anymore because we're actually live streaming and direct capturing our own footage for our own channels to make money, so you can't do that anymore. So really what you're talking about me doing is going to tournaments for competitive nature. I'll be honest, the prizes for these tournaments aren't very great unless you're talking a national scale tournament. So even if I were to play the shit out of the game, go to the tournament and win, it's probably not even going to be financially viable or anything like that. Chances are I probably wouldn't win the tournaments anyway, because I probably wouldn't be able to dedicate the amount of time to it that these other people will be dedicating to it, okay? And for the business, it would be nothing. Because basically, I'd be going to the tournament, coming back. Yeah, maybe I'll pick some pictures for Instagram and social media. I'll share how I'm doing in the tournament. Maybe film a couple of my own matches, because I really don't think they can hold a candle and say you can't record your own shit. I'd be like, fuck you. It's mine. It's my gameplay, so it's mine. Fuck you. But besides that, it wouldn't be anything major for the business. So that's kind of the thing. Personally, if I really loved the game and I really love it to the point where I want to get competitive with it, I'll do it. But I would have to find a way to balance that and keep the business afloat. And that's kind of the dual edge here. When I started on YouTube in 2008, 2009, and Street Fighter V was huge, I could film whatever I wanted. I could put it on YouTube. I was attending tournaments. I was getting ad revenue on the videos, and that's not like that anymore. Now it's become completely commercial. You know, these tournaments want to live stream their own shit, record their own shit, and make money on their own shit, which they have the right to. But that means that basically me attending a tournament is kind of a thing just for me rather than for the business. So if I get the competitive bug back for Street Fighter V, and I really want to play this game at a competitive level, I'll consider doing it. And I'll have to try to find a way to balance it. Maybe attend a tournament that's on a weekend, right? And instead of 2 days of me doing my normal stuff, okay, 2 days away from that for me to attend this tournament, and then I'll vlog it maybe, and I'll come back and I'll tell you what I thought and how it worked and stuff like that. Great, but I don't want to promise that, especially because at this point, out of all the betas that I played of Street Fighter V, I'd say Zangief, I love the character. And maybe one or two of the new characters, like Rashid, I liked the character, but some characters I didn't like. And, you know, I don't want to say, oh, I'm going to get super into this game if I end up, after playing it for 2 months, not liking how the game has adjusted to a competitive level. We'll see. It's all about we'll see. Is the possibility there? Absolutely. Is it a definite possibility or strong possibility? I don't know. We have to see how things go with Street Fighter V in just a couple weeks. It's actually 2 weeks. Shit, okay, 2.5 weeks. And then I'm going to start playing the hell out of the game, and we'll find out for ourselves. Okay? Before we move on to the common questions, meaning people who submitted their questions on my forums and on Twitter and Facebook, I want to do the special thank yous, because like I said, I'm not doing my podcast anymore. So this will be the segment where I say thank you to the following patrons who in the month of December pledged $10 or more and basically helped me out and allowed me to keep doing this full time. Here they are. So thank you to Justin Lango, Kless, Samuel Barnes, Chelsea1973, Matt Allen, Kevin Stiles, Joseph Harrell, Tom Dooley, Connor, Low Tier Lord, Sammy Samosa, Ben Wynn, Sam Benson, Aaron Hames, Mike Hunt 2018, no, I didn't say it the way that sounds like something else, DeMarcus Fitzhugh, St. Jimmy, Christine Gebhardt, Angus H.H. Young, Thomas McDonald, Hink Duma, Faithin13, Papa Neeks, QPZMWN, Malawan, Krishan, Jesus with Lightsabers, Last Rambo 341, Logan Shannon, Francisco Resto, Bassoon Girl, Aaron Carpenter, Jacob Hendricks, The Hidden Boss, Planet Jeff, Donovan, Lou, or it could be Louis, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Elazin, Blaine Mayo, Brendan Yoder, Gabriel Melian, Joe Wiltshire, Michael Deneault, Kazi, Jacob Curtis, and Alan Hill. Your support really is helping me this year in particular, where things are very uncertain with the amount of money that I'm going to be making. So thank you very much. If you'd like to get your question answered on Ask the King, or if you'd like to get that kind of verbal shout out thank you in one of my videos, check it out. I cannot point to the right thing. Here, check it out here. Patreon.com/DarkSidePhil. All right, let's get one or two more questions answered in this video, then we'll split it because I know at this point I've already gone over 30 minutes. All right, this question is from Purple Pie. And he or she asks the following, because I have no idea from that name the gender of the person. In your 7 or 8 years of making gameplay videos, were there any specific moments that stand out to you or have made you the happiest? I'm talking about things like specific fan reactions, certain accomplishments, or experiences with games that you've loved. You know, there's things over the years that obviously stand out to me that were really fun times, that were just kind of full of enjoyment, and just, I remember initially when I started on YouTube, I had no clue anyone would ever be interested in the shit that I was doing. It was on a whim, and it blew the fuck up. And I couldn't believe it, that people were so interested in just seeing me play games and dick around and swear and rage at the games, but also make jokes. And when I did playthroughs of games like Mass Effect and Heavy Rain and stuff in those earlier days, it really was a different, almost organic feeling. Like, who knows where the future lies at that point? I had never put an ad on a video. I'd never made a cent doing it. I didn't know if anything would ever turn out from it. But at that point, it was just, you know, an amazing thing to see that people really liked me and my personality and the stuff that I had to share with people during gameplay. And then I would say it kind of changed, because in the years of 2011 and 2012, when I was making money doing this and able to pay off all my financial debts and shit because of it, then what I liked is that I now had almost an authoritative reach. Meaning when important shit was going down, like remember SOPA and PIPA and what was it, S.978 or 678, whatever it was, all those bills that were going to shut down gaming on YouTube, and I was able to actually have a voice and spread the word about that shit and get people actively involved in shutting it down. That felt amazing. But not only that, in particular to gameplay, all the peripherals like the Kinect and the PS Move, people wanted to see, gee, does this shit work viably? What are these games? And I was able to take the money I was making and put it into the business to buy those things and show you firsthand that most of them were garbage, but some of them were actually fun. Remember Start the Party? Remember Rise of Nightmares? Remember the vast majority of varied stuff that I did over the years with the motion controls, and I was able to show you actively what that was? That was an amazing experience. You know what? E3, even though quite honestly being in person at E3 in 2012 wasn't that big of a deal, because most of the shit at E3 is public anyway, and you can just fucking cover it by being at home over the internet. Just being there in person made me feel like, wow, this is the big time. I'm appreciated. People really respect my opinions. They want to see me cover this firsthand. That was an amazing feeling. And if anything, that's one of the things I'm disappointed with, is that I haven't been able to go back to E3, quite honestly, because I can't afford it. It's not because I can't get in. I know I could get in, because there's people who are much smaller than me on YouTube who are able to get in. It's actually a lot easier now if you're a YouTuber to get into an event like E3. My problem is I just don't have the funds to do it. You know, but my focus has been on improving the business and moving across the country, and I've done both of those things, but now I'm in a financial rut, so I can't do things like travel and stuff like that anymore. Fan reactions. Are you kidding me? You have no idea how many thousands of people have responded to me over the years saying, Phil, because I saw you playing this particular game and enjoying it, or raging at it, or whatever, I went out and bought the game for myself, and I'm loving it. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. So many people have said that I am the person who, when they're bored or they're down, that they could just put on one of my playthroughs and play it and watch it and enjoy it and get immersed in it and just let it, you know, float away their problems and just be somewhere else and have fun with this whole interactive YouTube thing. My God, you don't know how good that makes me feel, really. Like, to know that I've had some kind of a positive contribution to the human race, because before YouTube, I didn't have any reach. The only reach I really had was the Street Fighter community, which at that point I was so disgruntled with and just didn't give a fuck about anymore, you know. And besides, I had an office job that really wasn't appreciating me. It was overworking me, did not appreciate what I was putting into the company. And it was like, you know, what am I going to do with my life? I had absolutely no idea of what I could do to be any kind of a contributive, constructive, or positive part of society. YouTube turned all that shit around, man. It did. And even right now, I know, even if the business fell through and I wasn't able to continue doing this full-time, even just putting out videos part-time would be an awesome thing, to keep sharing my life experiences with you and doing vlogging and maybe playing a game from time to time. Even though obviously that's not what I want to do. I want to do this full-time. You know, I would never give up this whole experience. Okay? So, you know, I know that this guy's asking for specific instances. It's very hard for me to narrow down when I've done this for 8 years. Oh, I'm this one right here and this one right here. Really, I can't, you know? But over the years, just a body of work. Can you name one fucking person on the planet Earth who's put more of themselves on the internet than I have? Someone who's put out 40,000 gameplay videos, thousands of vlogs and vlogging hours. You know what I mean? I think I've covered more and shared more of my life with people than anyone ever on the internet. And, you know, you could say, oh, but what about this major corporation or this professional level of channel? Yeah, people who are like teams of people, right? And corporations who have other people working on videos. I dare you to find someone who's shared more of their life than I have on the internet over the past 8 years. And it's been an amazing ride. It really has. And I want it to continue. And, you know, thank you. Just thank you to those of you who have been there for the ride, who are looking forward to the positive changes this year. Feeling good. Let's do one more question, then we'll take I'll take a short break. I'll split the video, and then we'll move on to part 2. All right, so this question is from Hell Knight 54. Who asks, hey Phil, I want to know your opinion on almost every new release that is published by publishers like Activision and EA. They always seem to be coming out now with a season pass or some kind of, you know, DLCs before the game's even released. A lot of gamers believe that these $50 season passes and the microtransactions that also seem to be attached to these games are going to be the end of gaming. Do you believe that? Will they be the end of gaming? No. Will they be a part of the evolution of gaming? Yes. Because I think what's happening more and more these days is that gaming has become such a big business that now there's market cannibalization. You know, when I was growing up in the 80s, 90s, and even to some extent the 2000s, okay, there weren't so many game developers and so many video games coming out that they would kill each other in the market, right? Like, even, just to be honest here, when I started covering games for YouTube, 2008 to 2010, there weren't that many high-profile releases all the time. You would have maybe 1-2 a month where these are like must-have AAA games that people want to play, right? Now they're out all the fucking time. And not only that, but then you've got the indie games that are coming out and are just as good as everything else. So the market is becoming so oversaturated with new games that it's cannibalizing itself, all right? So what's happening now is these big game publishers are afraid. They don't want to sink years of development, millions of dollars into developing a game that they're going to try to sell for a full retail price, $60, and then it doesn't make a lot of money. Okay? It doesn't pair off well for their investment. That's how they feel it from a business perspective, that they invested all this time and money and efforts and resources and it didn't deliver the way that they had hoped. So now what they're trying to do is find additional revenue streams. Well, at least if the game doesn't sell great up to the insane expectations that we lived it up to, well, at least people will continue to buy the DLC packs. They'll buy the season pass that doubles the purchase price of the game. And, you know, that's how we'll make up our money. And, you know, I have to say I'm guilty of this because last year, I'm a sucker. I will 100% admit it. I am a sucker. Even though I'm strongly against these season passes, I bought the season pass for Batman Arkham Knight. I'm a dumb shit. Because that was one of the worst season passes available. It had 2 story-based DLCs that were worth playing, each of which was around 90 minutes long, roughly. And outside of that, it was a bunch of little map challenge packs with the Batmobile that were crap. 1 or 2 character packs. Remember, one had, what was it? One was Catwoman and one was Robin, I think. And those were incredibly short, like you beat them in 15 minutes. It was a complete ripoff. There was nothing in that season pass to warrant the price tag whatsoever. It was a bait and switch because they initially gave you that cool Batgirl story pack as the first piece of content to make you think that it was worth it. So everyone bought the season pass, played it, and said, oh, this is really cool. It's worth it. Everyone should buy the season pass. Everyone did, and then you didn't get anything until December that was worth playing again. So I was a victim of it, and I'm just dumb enough to let myself be a victim of it as well, all right? Microtransactions. Listen, microtransactions at least are not bait and switch. Season passes in a lot of cases are because they promise you the world and then they don't deliver. Microtransactions, it's your fault if you put additional money into the game. If you're playing this multiplayer game, I gotta unlock this thing right away rather than put 25 hours of gameplay into it to unlock it. I'm gonna put money into the game, microtransaction, boom, instant gratification. That's on you. That's not on the game developer, because they're offering you a product and you actively choose to buy it. So it's different from a season pass where maybe they're promising you great content, you buy it, and then they give you shit. That's the difference here between the two. I really, at this point, have to say I'm against season passes. I'm so against season passes that even though in the past both Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas have delivered outstanding DLC expansions, I have not bought the season pass for Fallout 4, and I refuse to do it. I'm just going to buy them one by one. And even if I end up spending $10 to $15 extra fucking doing that, at least I know I didn't buy the first one and it was shit, and now, oh, well, I bought the season pass, so I'm stuck with all of them. No, I'm not doing that shit anymore. I refuse. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So shame on, Rocksteady and the Batman game developers for that shitty season pass. But shame on me if I fucking buy another one and the same shit happens, because I should have learned my lesson. And that's how we should all treat this. We all know, we've all been burned now. So if you buy the season pass, you're supporting that practice. And shame on you for supporting it if you've been burned and you're actually letting these people make additional money on the same fucking game. That's crap, all right? But microtransactions, I think, are the future. And I hate to say it, I think you're going to find more games that are addictive, more games that aren't about story development or anything like that, but where you're going to want to time sink, money, keep little transactions of $2, $3, $4, $5 here and there, and the next thing you know, you spent $1,000 on a game that was a $60 release, or even worse, a free-to-play game that you spent $1,000 on for your gratification. And a lot of the times, the thing that really sucks about microtransactions is it's gambling, because you don't get what it would be one thing, spend $5 and you get that rare drop or weapon that you're looking for. No, spend $5 and get a random card pack where you may get something good or you may get a bunch of crap. And it's gambling. It's basically legalized gambling. And quite honestly, I don't know how it's legalized. I think that, in my opinion, if you're going to spend money, you should get what you want. So if really that rare gun, is so rare, and they want to charge $100 for it, charge $100 for it. Don't make me buy $25 random card packs to hopefully open up a pack and get that one gun that I fucking wanted the whole time, right? That's the problem. It's legalized gambling. I don't know how the hell it could even be allowed. If anything, I don't think that those who regulate gambling are even looking at this microtransaction stuff in video games to understand how it works. And they don't realize that it is gambling at its core. So, will gaming be destroyed and ruined by these things? No. Because if we're smart consumers and we stand up and we say we're not going to be buying season passes anymore because we got burned, they're not going to exist. The problem is they don't learn their lesson. They get burned, but they keep buying them. So the longer you keep getting fucked and let yourself get fucked and just keep handing your money over hand over fist, they're not going to go away. Microtransactions, I don't think will go away, because people will get addicted and will continue to spend their money on shit that's not guaranteed. And I think it's sick and it's wrong, but that's just a human symptom of life, is that we all want to gamble. We all spend money on the lottery. Remember when the Powerball was huge a couple weeks ago? I went to the store and bought a couple Powerball tickets, That's what I mean. We're all in this mentality that we're going to make it big or get it rich, get that one rare thing we want, and it's a gamble, and people will always have microtransactions because of that, in my opinion. And will it ruin games? No. Because I think that kind of game that have microtransactions is a different animal from the kind of games that are the bigger budget development AAA games that really we should be spending our time on. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure there's people who love these games, these MMOs, these free-to-play games like Destiny, right? Microtransactions out the ass. And Halo, oh my god, Halo 5 had microtransactions, which I can't fucking believe. It is what it is. All right. That's it for part 1 of Ask the King. I'll be back shortly with part 2, which you got tons more questions to answer, okay? So don't go anywhere. I'll be back shortly. Check out for part 2 right here on the King of Hate vlog. Should be going live shortly if it's not live by the time that this video goes live. Thanks for watching. See you in part 2.